In this lesson, we're going to make an intuitive pattern composition. What do I mean by that? This is a really useful tool and starting practice because it gets you out of your head and helps you trust the conversation between your heart and your hand. So rather than going into this with a set plan, we're going to build the composition one element at a time. So to begin, draw an abstract, irregular shape on a sheet of blank white paper. This is your boundary. Now begin to fill this boundary with a variety of shapes. You could start in the center, or you could start at the edge. So within this boundary, this abstract boundary, I am going to start over here on the left, and I'm just going to start to mimic and mirror the lines that I already see, just as a starting point. Those initial lines can really guide where your pattern, your irregular pattern, your intuitive pattern is going to go. So this is just really about building out the shapes intuitively. I'm really not overthinking each step. I'm just allowing my hand, my eye, my brain, my heart to guide the next shape. I'm leaving some space in between these lines, but all of our patterns are going to look different. But it's a fun puzzle. The shapes start to fit into each other. Don't worry about it being perfect. Just play. Now, once you've filled in that space with your pattern, you can start to add in a little bit of contrast with value. So I'm going to use this chisel tip marker because it's thicker, and there's a lot of control here for filling in certain shapes. So I'm going to start to just intuitively still fill in certain areas. So here I like what's happening between these two shapes, how they're close to touching but not quite. And I like the alternating between the dark and light value down here. Now I'm looking at these circles and I'm going to start filling in some of these. And I'm really thinking as I go through these, at first I thought I would do every other, but I want to do all of them because I want there to feel like there's a strong foundation, a strong grounding to this piece, and I feel like the weight of this contrast, this darker value, brings the eye down so that it's not just floating up here in all these shapes. It gives some root to everything, but I don't want to fill in this square because I want contrast between the two. So you can start to fill in or even thicken some of the lines that you've made. That's a really great way to add contrast too. You can start to fill in certain areas to add more intrigue and the value differences for more interest visually in the composition. So I like that, and as you look at this and as you look at your own piece, you can start to ask, is it out of balance? Is there another area that I can add some contrast to make it more in balance? So I'm kind of seeing that there's a lot of weight visually up here. And what that means to me is I want to see if it's counteracted over here, and it is somewhat with these bottom circles. But then I'm looking at, can I add a little bit of weight, maybe even to the outline of the shape? That's not off limits. And I like that. So now I feel like there's more balance across the whole pattern. In the next lesson, we will dive deeper into practicing some of the composition rules we discussed earlier in this class.